Live from Sacramento, California, the World Wrestling Association presents Stonehenge Equinox at the, let's see if I can do this. Can I do this? At the Macau Cafe. I'm experimenting here, guys. I don't know if this is going to work, but we're right on time. It is Wednesday. You're right. This isn't Tuesday. This isn't Tuesday parking lot day. I'm going to try to switch my camera around here. There. I hope we're still here. We are in the parking lot. Wednesday, every couple months, on Wednesdays, there's a special sale that Constance is always the frugal shopper. And so we're here on Tuesday instead of, or here on Wednesday instead of Tuesday. You know, I looked around on the calendar for October 18th for some historic event, and there was a couple of things. The British sort of surrendered to a battle in Concord or someplace like that, but it got me thinking. Really, nothing earth-shaking that at least was memorable enough to talk about occurred in history on this day. So that means it's up to you to do something awesomely important and significant. So that's my words of wisdom. So please do that. I'll wait. No, I'm being facetious this morning. I'm going to read you something. Part of my one of my presentations to Philemacon a few days ago, concerned, what I did on my pandemic weekend. My 2.5-year pandemic weekend. And, part of my message was I've been privileged since the very beginning of this extraordinary time that we're in. I've been privileged to meet with you every morning for over 900 straight mornings. And I suppose I missed one day. Perhaps I missed one day or 2 days at the most. And I fully intend to continue doing this until we're all just so incredibly tired of me that I finally succumb to my deserved embarrassment. But until then, until I wise up, I'm going to continue to do this as long as I'm kicking. Be that as it may, part of my talk was these morning meetings in which I have systematically and sporadically at the same time read pretty much all of my major published works, episodically every morning. I've gone through all my books, and I've been doing this for so long that many of you who are watching this never caught those other ones, so I'm not too concerned if I'm repeating snatches of things here and there. And I'm lucky enough to have someone kindly record these and also put them on YouTube. So people who aren't on Facebook can see these talks every day. And when I take the time to check on the YouTube viewership, it's usually the same viewership or even more than what we get on Facebook. So I'm very, very pleased. And all of that's free of charge. Nobody is monetizing this or anything. And so my point is that at the Thelema talks, I brought up my observation that doing this, reading from my own published works, written over a period of 35 years, is similar to what a magician does when they review and analyze their magical diaries. And for me, when I write for the ear of an unseen audience, you might not believe this, but I am more honest with myself than when I write it in my own magical diary. You know how hard it is to read your own tarot cards. You know that when you write your magical diary, first of all, when you write your magical diary for your superior in whatever magical system that you're in, you think you're being candid, and sometimes you go out of your way to be shockingly candid, but you know you're still writing for that other ear. But when you write for publication, or at least when I write for publication, the ear I'm writing for must truly be invisible, and I have to first make that ear my own. And when I do that, there is a level of candor that for me is profoundly different than the affected voice I use when I'm, writing my diary for back in the old days for Phyllis. So, that being said, these things that I'm sharing with you, these writings, well over 35 years of writings that are enshrining my thoughts and my attitudes during a long stretch of time, which includes hopefully my own development and my own changing views and expanded views, hopefully, has been a wonderful exercise. So for the last couple days, I've been digging deep in files that I have to, computer files that are so old that I have to reopen them in other programs than that they were written in and such. And it's so interesting to peek in on myself, like it's a magical diary on steroids. And some of these I did for my book, Ask Babylon. And so I've done this before, but now I'm digging deep into things that I haven't seen and thoughts that I haven't thought for many, many years. And these also serve as a magical diary. And I ran across an interview that I did for a small pagan magazine back in 2000, let's see, what is it? Back in 2001. And I'm going to share at least part of that interview with you today, with your permission. And if I don't have your permission, look at yesterday's talk. It was good. The article was titled The Busy World of Lon Milo DuQuette. Now, this is 2001. My whole life was totally different in 2001. Yeah, I'd written a few books, but I hadn't written that many books. Okay. Question. Being seen as an authority because of the popularity of your numerous published works, oh, thank you very much. What type of pressure does that place on you, both personally and publicly? My answer. Oh, yeah, that's my answer. I'm very grateful that my works have been so warmly received, and I'm pleased to take any opportunity to discuss them further. I've always led a somewhat public life. I was a musician for 14 years before taking a rather visible role in magical societies. Even before any of my books were published, my ritualistic duties afforded me the opportunity to travel quite a bit around the country and abroad. If there is any additional pressure in recent years, it has only resulted from my struggles to better budget my time. And I love this one because I got to remember what I do from day to day back in 2001. What were you doing in 2001? Were you even here? Okay. What is your day-to-day life like? My answer. As I imagine it is for many of your readers, my day-to-day life is an odd mixture of the painfully mundane and the colorfully bizarre. First of all, I have a regular 9-to-5 job. Now, of course, I don't have that 9-to-5 job, but I kept that 9-to-5 job, this particular one I'm talking about, for 9 straight years. I have a regular 9-to-5 job. As a matter of fact, holding a job and my 34-year marriage to Constance, this is now 55, are the 2 greatest magical accomplishments of my life. Traditions of ceremonial magic inform us that the first magical weapon a magician makes is the disc or panticle. It is the elemental weapon of earth. It is the firm foundation upon which the magician stands before beginning to exercise his or her will upon the universe. For me, holding a regular job is an important aspect of my magical panticle. Without a roof over my head or food in my stomach, all my magic would be concerned with putting a roof over my head and food in my stomach. Actually, my day begins before I am fully awake. For me, the moments of twilight consciousness, just before I'm completely asleep at night and just before I'm completely awake in the morning, can be the most spiritually revealing times of my life. If I can bring the memory of my dreams, even if it's only the last images and impressions of a very long dream, if I can bring that into waking consciousness, I feel that I've at least partially integrated my conscious and my subconscious minds. Hopefully, I've also digested some of the lessons and adventures of my subconscious life. They're not always pleasant, but I would rather remember them and try to work out their mysteries than to forget them and have to repeat the lesson. I'm going to move my camera here just a little bit here. There. This is, I sort of forgot this routine. Before driving to work, I usually spend a little time answering my mail and organizing my thoughts and materials for the day's work. On the 30-minute drive to work, I chant a peculiar mantra of my own invention. 108 repetitions of the holy name Ganesha to the tune of Pop Goes the Weasel. Don't ask, it's a long story. And I work on memorization of various rituals and poetry. For the last 23 years, I've hosted a weekly magic class in our home, and I'm usually teaching or otherwise ritualizing 2 or 3 additional nights a week. Last night's class was on the construction of the body of light and astral projection, which I've done a Zoom seminar on astral projection, and now it's being worked on and translated for a Chinese workshop that I'll be doing on that same subject in just a few weeks. Oh, the one in English is still available if you'd like to order it. That's a plug. That's a plug because I don't have a 9-to-5 job anymore. I got to do shit like that. Okay. I travel quite a bit every year in my physical body too, and not only on OTO business, but also, and it's at this time, for the American Tarot Association and International Tarot Society and my publishers. This August, I teach 3 days at the Omega Institute in upstate New York. Present 2 seminars at the National OTO Conference in Long Beach, California. 2 seminars at the annual Scandinavian Gathering in Oslo, Norway, and 2 seminars in London. In between all this, I try to write and keep from getting fired at my day job, which was kind of by this time, okay, by 2001, I was starting to come pretty much out of the mystical closet at work. Now, for about 5 years prior to that, I just kept a very low profile and just kept my nose to the grindstone. But after a while, once I got absolutely comfortable with everybody, and after everybody felt very comfortable with me, I slowly but surely let it drop that I was also writing books and that I was also into mystical things. Soon I was reading tarot cards for my boss. Soon I was officiating the wedding ceremony of my boss and a couple co-workers. Lon was became sort of curiosity at work. And finally, when I said, I'm going to take my vacation time and go to Oslo, they go, yes, go and tell us all about it when you get back. Okay. But I digress. Question. Having witnessed the evolution of paganism in recent years, do you see the proliferation of traditions, in quotes, covens and solitaries as making acceptance or tolerance of paganism as a whole more difficult to the majority religions? My answer. Please don't think me arrogant when I say I could care less if anybody has difficulty with my religious beliefs or spiritual practices. I practice them in private or in a sympathetic environment. I do not proselytize, nor do I rub my religion in anyone's nose. I just don't have the time to be constantly weighing my beliefs or practices against everyone else's beliefs and practices. I always keep in mind the fact that I live 99.99% of my life in common with everyone else on the planet, even the most hateful bigot. We are all human beings. We all depend upon air and food and water and shelter and human companionship. Compared to all the things I have in common with the Christian or the Muslim or the Jew or the Hindu or the Buddhist, the fact that we hold sacred different varieties of abstractions is hardly worth mentioning. I don't wear my religious differences on my sleeve. I look more or less like everybody else. Actually, I look like somebody else's. I talk more or less like everyone else. I can find plenty of things to pleasantly discuss, even with people whose politics and religion I abhor. I like apple pie and pizza. I watch Jeopardy. I enjoy sex. I go to movies. I complain about gasoline prices. I'm not asking anyone to accept or tolerate the fact that I conjure demons and worship strange and terrible gods. Hell, I don't even have time to bring up the subject. As for the proliferation of new or ancient, recently rediscovered or newly revealed traditions and such, I personally feel that many of them are really more along the lines of role-playing games. But what's wrong with that? When you think about it, all religious expression is a form of role-playing game. Honestly, though, who am I to even voice such an opinion publicly? It shouldn't matter what I believe. Unless someone is putting a gun to my head and ordering me to believe one way or another, it is not for me or anyone else to denigrate another's religion, no matter how silly I may believe it to be. I've been wrong before, and I've spent years of my life being silly and doing stupid things. Question: what do you see as the greatest stumbling block to pagans striving for equality and an end to religious discrimination against them? This is my answer. Now, please keep in mind, this is 21 years ago, and I may handle these answers with a new level of tact and discretion. But this is a younger Lon. Okay, my answer. Well, there is no question that the ignorant and misinformed continue to make things difficult for people of all minorities. In my opinion, the greatest stumbling block to pagans striving for equality and an end to religious discrimination can be found inside themselves. It is the insidious mindset buried deep in the subconscious minds of many individuals in the pagan community that perhaps their beliefs really are unequal with the majority beliefs. I certainly do not want to sound cruel here, but it's painfully obvious to me that a great many professing pagans are part of the movement primarily because they are against the religious institutions and spiritual worldview of their parents or previous generations, and not because they are thoughtful and passionate advocates for the craft. It is clear to me that many vocal proponents of the craft are very sure about the things they fear, but not at all clear about the things they love. It's a sad comment, but I believe if there was not some level of discrimination and intolerance against the craft, many of these individuals would not long remain part of the scene. Yes, there's discrimination. Yes, there's intolerance. But anyone who defines their entire spiritual identity in terms of the villains who oppose them, rather than the heroes they profess to be, are missing the point entirely. If you don't think your religion will be equal to Roman Catholicism until the Pope admits that it is, you may as well give up and become a Catholic. This spiritual inferiority complex is unwarranted and unhealthy, and certainly unbecoming of mature individuals of any religious persuasion. That was my rant of 21 years ago. Next, if anyone's still listening, next question was, what are a few of your best memories of practicing your faith over the past few decades? My answer: for the last 21 years, Constance and I have had the privilege of celebrating what is commonly known as the Gnostic Mass. It's not only an extraordinarily beautiful ritual that communicates the supreme magical secret of our order, but it is also the central ceremony with which our thelemic community marks the great landmarks of life we share in common: births, deaths, marriages, and rites of passage. I'd have to say that my best memories have occurred just before, during, or after one of these magical celebrations. The next question: being so active in an OTO lodge, do you find yourself lumped in with the reputation of Aleister Crowley on occasion? How do you feel about that and the way Crowley is viewed in general? My answer: if I find myself lumped in with the reputation of Aleister Crowley, it's only been in the most positive ways. The wide availability of his writings in recent years have made it possible for even the most casual investigator to soon discover Crowley's serious contributions to modern spiritual thought. I'm happy to say that currently, among the individuals and institutions whose opinions actually matter, vis-a-vis the advancement of civilization in general and the evolution of human thought in particular, the works of Aleister Crowley are enjoying immense popularity, and his sinister reputation is viewed with a kind of nostalgic amusement. The next question was, do you see an alarming increase in pagans selling their services on the open market in the current era for similar purposes? What is your view of such practices? Now, me as a shameless self-promoter, how bad can I criticize anyone who would dare plug their works? But I digress. Here's what I said back in 2001. I'm not too alarmed at all. After all, some people don't value teachings unless they think it's valuable enough to pay for. I do see a lot of pagan-looking books that aren't really aimed at knowledgeable pagans, and I do have serious issues with works that are aimed at children. Spell kits and such aimed at children's market is telling me one of two things. The creator and the publisher don't really believe this stuff is real and so believe it is harmless to sell to kids, or two, the creator and publisher do believe this stuff is real and don't care if they sell it to those who are not mature enough to use it wisely. Either way, the creator and the publisher is behaving irresponsibly. Again, this is only my opinion, and I'm just a crabby old magician. Okay, that's where I'm going to stop with that 2001 interview. Obviously, I would have said everything a little bit differently. But it's really good to review your thoughts, your attitudes, your irritations, as if it were a moment trapped in amber. It still has radiance, it still has beauty, it still has the capacity to inform you. So that's my little rant for today. Tomorrow is an early trip to Trader Joe's, but it shouldn't get in the way of our meeting at 10 o'clock. So until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.